everyone, welcome once again to S.H.I.E.L.D. Discussions. I'm Captain Logan.
I am Dan.
And now we're on finally to the mid-season introduction. We've got the 11th episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The episode is called Repairs?
It is a magical place.
Magical Place. I'm sorry. I totally had the one from a couple episodes ago. That's of course that's what it was called.
That's an easy mistake to make. We've crawled this far. It's
Yeah. So, this episode, I think, promised a lot. This is one of those where, a big cliffhanger, we had to wait a few weeks, and I think people expected big things from this one. I know I did, and that was maybe a little unfair considering the pacing that this show has been going. It's been a little slow, and we talked about that last episode. So this one, I was really hoping, and maybe against hope, that that we would really pick up speed with this one. That they would finally get the what happened to Coulson after he died thing out of the way, and we could go a different direction for the rest of the season. Because we've kind of revealed some stuff about Centipede. I kind of hoped that we would get that, and then maybe maybe they would even reveal the clairvoyant or something. I think maybe I was a little too hopeful. We didn't get nearly as much as I was hoping we would. It's not that we got nothing, and it's not that what's here isn't good, but Dan, are you worried that we're gonna drag out the what happened to Coulson when he died thing all the way to the end of the season?
It seems like it's going to go that way. Either they're going to drag that out, or the sky background thing is going to be dragged out, or both potentially, and we get this really hackneyed episode at the end where everything's revealed, and it's like, oh, well, that's not as satisfying as I hoped it would be, potentially,
Yeah, the reason this bugs me is so much is because I'm worried that, and I guess I've said this before, but even more so now, twice what I felt before. I don't see how in the world we're going to be anything like satisfied or impressed with what this finally is, as far as Coulson goes. And I hope I'm blown away by it, but they're dragging it out so hard that I'm getting to where I don't care anymore. That's the problem. Somebody left a comment in our last show and said that we're not finding what they're doing interesting because we're just assuming that it's the life model decoy thing, and we're not considering other possibilities that might be bigger and more interesting. That's a fair comment. But the thing is, with what we get here, and we get the whole touching the brain thing, and I'm still not entirely sure what's going on. I still don't know if this is real Coulson, or I think we can be fairly sure that he's in the same body he was in before.
Yes, I believe it's the same.
Yeah, I think we can be pretty sure of that. But I'm just saying that, now that we know that, I'm not saying I'm annoyed if it's not a life model decoy thing. I'd love to be surprised. I'd love for it to be something that never even occurred to me. But damn, what would it have to be for us to be like, okay, it was worth 20 episodes to find out?
I think where they might end up going with this is and maybe we'll get to this in the predictions or something, but I think maybe
sure
it'll be somehow connected to this technology that the Centipede or shadowy organization is developing. Nick Fury was so desperate to bring Coulson back that he used that kind of technology, and it's slowly destroying him in some way. Because there's a lot of talk in this episode about how this shadowy organization wants to beat what S.H.I.E.L.D. is, but just not government funded. And
that's interesting. Yeah, that's cool. Maybe part of the problem is that I'm just afraid it can't possibly be very plausible. I can't figure out. And again, I'm ready to be surprised.
Right.
I just think I think we're taking too long. Is my point.
Yeah, fair.
I think what I'm worried about is that they're not going to be able to make me convinced of why Coulson is this important. I mean, the whole Nick Fury moved heaven and earth in order to bring Coulson back from the dead thing. They're and of course they're drawing attention to you have, I forget who it was. Somebody says no agent is that important.
Victoria says that.
Yeah, Han says that. No Asian is that important, and then Sky's like, well, Coulson is, and then of course to Nick Fury, Coulson is for some reason.
Mm.
Are we gonna buy that? Are we gonna believe that he had all of these doctors and surgeons working around the clock to figure out a way to resurrect someone?
Yeah.
What would Coulson have to know or be in order for that to be the case? Unless, and I guess this is all prediction territory, but this is the big important stuff to talk about this episode, so that's why I'm leading with it. Unless it's that Coulson was never really a human being in the first place, that he is something else from the very beginning. That's something that a lot of fans are kind of talking about right now. That maybe Coulson was always something else, and like he's. I mean, he looks and walks and talks and acts like a person, but maybe he was genetically engineered or created or something. If that's the case, it might work. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he was the result of S.H.I.E.L.D. trying to make super soldiers like this organization is now. Who knows? It would be weird for him to not have manifested any sort of superpowers by this point, but maybe there's something going on with his. Maybe it's like a healing factor thing. Who knows? Because it's weird. Like in this episode, they make a big deal about saying how he was stabbed in the heart, which he was, but they play around with his brain. Like, wouldn't
Yeah.
they have to do something to his heart too?
Well, they. My guess is that they already did, but that by the time Ron Glass's character got brought in, because remember, Ron Glass says that he was brought in way later,
Right. Yeah.
because you're alluding to the line where Coulson says you weren't messing with my heart, you were messing with my
Yes.
brain,
Yes.
and that doesn't mean that they never messed with his heart. It's just that by the time Ron Glass got there, they were messing with his brain. And this is the one part I really latched onto that I thought was really interesting. They brought Coulson back, and he wasn't a person, he was a thing, and they didn't want him to be whatever terrible thing they brought back from the
Yeah.
dead. So they gave him this memory in an attempt to humanize him and to turn him back into old Coulson, and that's the reason this whole season he's felt like he's not quite himself. That is a big Whedon thing. The idea, and I hope they go somewhere that Whedon's not gone with it before, because this is a major theme in Whedon shows. There's a thing he did in Buffy, a huge thing of the idea of you can't bring people back from the dead, and that was a magic thing in Buffy, which deals with themes of loss and grief and moving on and not living in the past. So the idea that like that's like even in a world of magic of Buffy, that was the one thing that never worked right. Bringing somebody back from the dead, they always came back wrong. And the idea of somebody coming back wrong is exactly what this Coulson thing is. When we get that at the end. So, I mean, like, I'm interested in that if they, if there's kind of a new spin on it. But that's also territory we've been in with Whedon shows before.
Right. There's a potential also for it to be interesting in that the whole comic book superhero death thing has been done to death, literally.
Yep.
And it'll be interesting to see if they go somewhere interesting with these characters. I mean, and we've seen it done in comics before to a degree, but I don't think to the degree that they're going into depth with it here, where someone dies and comes back and it's changed them this severely.
Right.
Like you said, they'll have to take it in a different, interesting direction for it to work. But if it works like I'm hoping it will, that will be cool. I don't know. There's like all the other episodes we talked about before with this death thing. There's such a cool potential for it to go in an interesting place. But I'm just not. I feel like I just haven't gotten enough of it. Like I don't know, in 10 episodes at the very least. And that's a complaint we've had recently. But I don't know.
It's just slow as molasses right now
Yeah.
for me. And I mean, like, we get a little with the memory machine thing. We get a little bit, or I guess this maybe even have more to do with the clairvoyant. I'm not sure, but we get a little bit of a nugget about Coulson's past, and the fact that his father dying when he was younger is apparently what changed him and got him to go into the S.H.I.E.L.D. program in the first place. I'd like to see that elaborated on.
And the thing with the violinist too, I was very interested in that. There was a lot of talk about her and how that relationship affected him.
And we just don't have we don't have very much about these people's pasts yet. Which again, we've talked about this before. I think that's being done on purpose.
Yes.
because of the kind of show it is, because it's a show about people keeping secrets from each other. I'm just not engaged enough to care yet. I'm in a place right now where like what we're getting is okay, but like there are all these mysteries being touted up, and the only reason I can't wait to see all the mysteries solved is because I feel like they could come up with more interesting ones. I just want to throw that out there. That's just how I feel about it right now.
Yeah, and the th the thing about it with this episode is like we're and rightfully so, we're really harping on how slow the show has been so far, but I think the episode takes the Coulson mystery out of the equation and like the secrets that the people are keeping that we haven't furthered. I think this episode does interesting things with the characters that I like and gets them to a place where like you take Coulson out of the equation. I think it says a lot about these people that they function as a team without him to get to a goal. Like they were always sort of semi-dysfunctional when he's around, and then you take him out of the equation, they realize, well, he's the glue that keeps everything together, and they're able to work together. I really liked that aspect of it, you know? Like, even Melinda May, like, you think she's gonna be the dysfunctional one that screws everything up, and it turns out she's actually smarter than you initially thought she was, and I don't know. I liked that kind of stuff, and especially with Skye, too, she gets a lot of cool stuff to do.
Yeah, I thought all that was
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
I mean, like, again, it didn't blow me away or anything.
Well,
I
it
guess I
didn't blow
wasn't
me away. I
surprised.
was just like,
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
I feel like we've built to a place where we should kind of expect these people to work together better now. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't surprised by any of that, but it all worked okay. Yeah, the way May manipulates Hand was fun.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. I thought Skye pretending to be Melinda May was hilarious, but I had no idea why she was doing that. Like how would that have gone down any differently if she had just been herself? Like I could not figure out why she was in disguise there.
The only thing I thought of that too, and the only thing I could kind of come up with would be like if that rich guy was smart enough and resourceful enough to look up like a database of Shield agents. I don't know how he would ever get access to that, and he didn't
Yeah.
seem like a guy that would be smart enough to do that anyway. But you know, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, looking into it a little bit, just her character and why she would think to do that. There is certainly a role play component
Oh
to
yeah,
it. I mean,
definitely.
this is her chance to really get to go out and be this rogue agent. And we've seen her do some field work before, and we've seen that she's good at it. It's kind of fun to think that there's a part of her that kind of wants to be Melinda May, even though they don't get along and she doesn't like her at all.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun. Like I said, I wasn't sure I bought like the like the the reason in that scene for her to do that, but the character reasons were there.
Yeah, exactly.
That was kind of fun, and the nice jacket moment was cool.
Yeah, I did like that, and
That was
I don't know. There was a lot of moments that I sort of liked and latched onto a little bit in there, and that made me enjoy the episode more than if it was just like, oh, look at this Coulson mystery that's not really going all that much. Like the only thing we learned about this is that surgery was done on him and his brain, and I kind of already assumed that in the first place if he wasn't a robot, you know?
I mean, I do feel like we got a smidge more than that.
Yeah,
I think what we got was he is literally not the man he was before, and I
yeah,
think that's where they're going with it. But again, to a degree, we already knew
yeah.
that.
That's what I'm
He
saying.
certainly felt that way, but. When maybe I'm looking far too maybe I'm reading far too into
No,
this. The thing I really latched onto was when Ron Glass said, "We didn't want you to be that thing." And I want to know what he was like when they brought him back before they did the brain surgery. Um, like when he said, because he says you lost the will to live, and I'm not real sure if that just simply means that Coulson was this like kind of brain dead messed up thing, and they were horrified that they brought him back and did this horrible disservice to this man that they all cared about, or that he was like a deadly thing, like they created a monster.
that's what I hope it is.
That's what I hope it is. Yeah.
And that would be such a great place to take that character, given how optimistic and idealistic he has always been, and he is now. Like even to a
That
artificial degree in the show, we've talked about that before, where he he it's almost to a fault at some point where he's optimistic, and he was always like that in the Marvel movies before, but he was a little bit more level-headed than he is now, I think.
right. And so the thing they've created now is this like oversimplified version of him,
Right, exactly.
and he's trying to find his complexity again. He's trying to find his purpose and his place in the world, and the man he liked to be. But what I find interesting about that, looking at the season as a whole so
Yeah.
far, is that he's got this chance at a second life to become this more perfect idealized version of himself, but yet he feels like he lost something.
Hmm.
And so I think that's kind of interesting that there's this conflict going on where I think there's part of him that wants to use this as a second chance to get it more right. I'd love to know what parts of his life didn't work before more than we've had so far. I want to know what mistakes this guy's made that he is now sort of kind of atoning for. I'm not assuming he has a deep dark past. I don't think that character would work that way.
I
Um,
don't know. I think you kind of have to have some kind of skeletons in your closet if you're a Shield agent. You know what I mean?
I got the sense from this that all it was going to be was he had a tragic backstory with a dead dad, and now he's a Shield agent. I'm not sure we can be sure there's anything more to it
He
than
at
that.
least had to have killed people. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a
But
Shield
this
agent,
was before he was a Shield agent.
I don't know. Like, I have to assume that like if he was a field agent, he did some pretty dirty stuff. Like, spy
Oh,
work is
I
not clean work.
that's true. I just meant his backstory, like even before he was a
Oh,
Shield
okay,
agent.
okay.
But no, I totally agree with you. I'm sure he saw some stuff and did some things he wasn't proud of. Okay, yeah. So no, you're right. In that sense, I totally see what you mean. Yeah, he's probably got some as Black Widow said in Avengers, some black on his ledger,
Red in her ledger, yeah.
or his red in her ledger. Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah, and I hope that's where it goes. Like what you just described, that's what I want to see happen. And I hope it goes there. And I really, get Ron Glass. I was very glad that guy came back. I was very glad to see him again.
that was a big deal to me because I've complained about that since the pilot,
Yeah,
for two big reasons. First of all, Book is my favorite character in Firefly,
yeah,
and to get to see Ron Glass again in a Whedon show was a big deal for me when we saw him in the pilot, and then it's a cameo, and it's like, well, why would Ron Glass have a cameo in the first 5 minutes of a pilot of a TV show? Like just so I can go look Book, and then oh, no more Book. Um, then when he's brought back here, it makes finally I know what his role is in all of that because I think we saw that he was a doctor or a surgeon or something in his getup in the first episode, but I didn't really know what exactly he was. To finally get him back, I was afraid it would be even longer before we saw him again, if ever. I just like I wasn't sure what his relevance was. I didn't trust the show to make him a thing. So anyway, when we saw him again, that was exciting, and I really kind of thought we were just going to see him in those flashbacks. And then when he gets that scene at the end of the car, I was like, well, thank God I at least get to see him act,
yeah,
just because I really like that actor. Another thing I was really worried about was that when we saw those initial flashbacks with like the thing gripping the brain and
yeah.
stuff, that when he has that dialogue at the end with Sky and Company, that plays kind of like your traditional end of the episode kind of resolving everything scene. I was afraid that's all we were going to get. When that Ron Glass scene ends up being really important for explaining a bit of what we saw, and I
Yeah.
was so glad we got that. I still don't think they went far enough. I still think that boy, if I was writing this show, we'd know everything by now and we'd be going somewhere with it. But that again, that's maybe not fair because I don't know exactly where they're going. So I could be completely okay with it by the time we get it. It's just where I'm sitting right now. I'm like, this doesn't feel interesting enough to require this length of time.
Oh no, I'm kind of
We'll
I'm
see.
getting on board with you with that. I'm kind of feeling the same way too. Um, and in fact, like, I mean, we'll get into it when we get into best moment and stuff. But
Sure.
I think that scene with Ron Glass was one of my favorite things about the episode. And one of the other things I was glad about to see was that Mike is not dead.
Yep.
I was very glad that, and that's an actor you said you like a lot because he had been in. Was he a Whedon alumni too?
Oh yeah, he was an Angel. He was in most of Angel. Yeah, that was Gunn. That's J. August Richards. Yeah, and I'm still in the place I was before though. I'm like, if we're gonna make him a regular, now we don't know that that's happening yet. But the fact that like, do you think that they will resolve that very quickly, or do you think they'll leave him in the background for several episodes? I'm kind of leaning toward the latter.
I think he might end up being like the tragic antagonist for the rest of the season because he's being controlled by the organization
Well,
now.
well, if that happens, then I can't complain that he's not a regular cast member and that he hasn't been the whole time. If that's where they end up going with it, boy, that'd be sad. What I would imagine would happen though, because we've already seen one of those, and they tragically got killed, and there was nothing that could be done about it. I think wasn't that how that went down?
Yes, there
With
was.
Yeah, I would assume that just like with the they fixed his implant thing, that they'll probably get him out of it.
Yeah, they'll probably get him out of it eventually, and I don't think they'll do the kind of thing where they, fake his death once and then kill him off later again. Um, but I think for that'll be the status quo for him at least for a little while, where like he's not going to be able to see his son. He'll be controlled by these people, and they'll be at least like going up against him to some.
That's really sad for that character. How is it that he is the most likable character in the show for me? This is just a personal opinion thing. I think he's the best character in the show. Maybe part of the problem is just that I like that. Maybe part of the deal is I just like that actor a lot. But I don't know. Like I found him. I found him to be the most compelling character in the pilot, and then they brought him back, and maybe the problem is they're not. Okay, because I find myself liking characters that I like more when horrible things happen to them and they have to overcome that adversity.
Well,
They're
that's
not
admirable in a character, you know.
they're not hurting our main characters hard enough. Even Coulson, I don't feel like they're being put in situations where that are hard enough for them yet. You could argue that they did with Simmons when she got thrown out of an airplane. I guess there's that, and of course, I liked those. I liked Fitz and Simmons more after that
Yeah.
episode, but. I don't know. I guess I'm just waiting for like the big stuff to happen.
I love Fitz's new attitude about everything too, where he's not as sheepish, where like Simmons is saying things to him like, we can't do this because it's, dangerous. And he's like, we got to do things like this sometimes.
Let me ask you a question about Fitz this episode.
Sure.
Was he? Do you think this is just speculation? Do you think that Fitz this episode was just angry and brutish and just saying whatever came to mind, or do you think he has gotten as cynical as he was acting? Because when he starts talking about let's just let those people die in order to get Coulson, even though they're totally innocent, I don't care. That suddenly makes him like the darkest person on the plane
Yeah.
that he's talking like that. Now, I don't know if he's just being passive aggressive or if he really might be moving in that direction. But the fact that, and again, maybe I'm reading too far into this. The fact that he's wearing all black really made me wonder if they're going to take him to a place.
No, I don't think you're reading too much into that. I was thinking about those lines of dialogue too, and I think they're important to his character. I mean, like
They are.
maybe everyone's in such a desperate situation here. Like even Ward, you see him like he's used to brutalizing people but not like straight up torturing them like he does.
Yeah, the airlock thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like when he's interrogating that guy, that's straight up torture.
Well, and it was nice to finally see some of that. I know that sounds terrible, but you and I have talked a lot about how these people just a lot of the time don't seem enough like actual Shield agents.
I mean,
That's a thing that one now they were pushed to a really desperate place, but I mean like there's been so much ambiguity about like whether or not they really have a truth serum and things like that. I like that room has that ability. Like
right.
that it had that slide out wall is there.
Right, and I like that's what I was trying to say. Like you put all those people in a desperate situation, and you learn things about them. And I
Yeah.
think the fact that Ward and Fitz were the two characters that went darkest out of everybody on the plane, and the fact that they matched up so well together in that previous episode, I think they're doing something there. Um,
Maybe they are. Yeah.
and then I think there was an interesting thing with that torture thing that I thought of too, where like people say all the time, torture isn't the most effective way of getting information out of people because you'll either, you know, um, brutalize them and they won't give you any information or they'll give you false information. And we see that happen with Coulson. He won't give up the information. And then, the clairvoyant kills the guy that was torturing Coulson and they bring in the girl in the flower dress and she's successful by being his friend. It'll be interesting to see, like, I don't know if they'll go any further with the intel that Ward got out of that guy, but like, I think they were saying, that's not the main crux of the episode, but at the very least, like, I think that's there. Like, the fact that torture isn't the best way of getting information out of people, that was something that I noticed a little bit going on too.
Yeah, and then the kind of moral compromising that happens with Coulson because he lets her get to him like that, because he keeps wanting to trust Shield, but she's one of those bad guys that like she makes really good points, and so you have to think about the compromising place that Coulson is put in, where like you can completely understand why he so badly needs that information and why he can't fully trust Shield because they're keeping it from him. They're keeping the reason he's not himself from him, but then also he's giving the bad guys potentially this really scary information that could be used against them.
Yeah, and I liked that. One of my favorite things about this episode is the fact that like we're fine. I think you're right in that we're not challenging these people and hurting them enough in the sense that they're not like coming into as much danger or like experiencing extreme like emotional peril. But I think at least in this episode, like the everybody's faith in the system is shaken in this episode. Like, and that's been kind of been what Coulson's whole thing is about. Is like we need to trust the system. We need to trust the system, and like the way the girl in the flower dress makes the point of the system that you want to trust in so much is not any different than this organization you're trying to fight against. Like they will do anything to get what they want from you people, just like we will.
And so what is so much better about Shield than
And
us?
what's the point
Why
of
are
your entire outlook on the world? Like it's calling into question everything he's thought about the world so far,
Yeah, and also, why would it be so much worse for us to have the secret to essentially
Yeah,
immortality
exactly.
than you? The answer to that, of course, is that Shield's not making super soldiers, as far as we know.
Right.
But so I
But
mean,
we know they're making Tesseract weapons, or at least trying to do
or
that.
at least they tried
Yeah.
to. Yeah. No, it's a really good point. Yeah. So I like that we're finally going there because you and I have talked a lot about how they've done some interesting things thematically with the idea of authority and governmental authority and stuff like that, but they've skirted around the moral ambiguity more than we would have liked. We've been kind of waiting for them to attack it
Yeah.
head on, and they did a little bit more of that here. I kind of hope that the ideas that are built up here will be progressed from this point forward from the next episode onward. I'm kind of afraid that we're going to have more filler episodes.
I hope not.
That's what I'm afraid of. Just because of the
No.
pace
I
that
mean,
this.
I can't
Yeah.
disagree with you because we've had that happen before. Like, there's episodes that we really liked. We're like, okay, I hope this idea is continued, and then it kind of peters off in the next few episodes when it's not addressed until a few episodes down the line. I can see that pattern kind of continuing, but I really hope that doesn't happen.
Did you have any more notes in general, or did you want to go ahead and move on to our categories?
No, I don't have any more notes in that regard.
Okay, I only had one other thing I wanted to mention, and that is I'm not sure. I mean, it plays really well for the episode, and I like that the clairvoyant makes some sense when he just straight up kills that guy for methods that are known to not work very well. I think it's really interesting to see somebody get killed by the bad guy because they tortured someone. I've not seen that before.
Yeah.
Um, the but in a broader sense, I kind of hated seeing that guy die because I thought he might go someplace really interesting.
Yeah, he was
I
an
mean,
interesting actor at the very least. I like the performance.
yeah, yeah, I liked his performance a lot. And remember, his name was Poe, and I kept wondering if they were going to go somewhere with that. I was like, is there a thing? Is there a reason he's called Poe? What's the Anagram place, or what's that about? I kind of thought they might go someplace with him, and he's gone already.
Well, I mean, now that they potentially
Sucks.
could have this secret to immortality, who knows? They could go somewhere with him.
Maybe so. They might
I don't
bring him
know if he's
back.
an important enough guy to resurrect, but who knows?
Yeah, that's the thing is that we got so little of him that if they brought him back, I wouldn't be like, woohoo, that guy. I'd be like,
And
well, there's a guy that I thought could go someplace, but I don't really care that much
you know
now.
what I just thought of?
Hmm.
Is Mike, did he actually die and they brought him back with that knowledge? Or is he,
What
did
do
he
they
survive
know,
that?
though? The problem is I don't know what they
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
Um, because I don't feel like Raina got anything except for they touched my brain
That's
and
true.
I
Yeah.
wanted to die.
Maybe
Like
I'm overthinking it, yeah. But
it's the only here's the thing, the only way that could possibly work is if the clairvoyant was able to read something while the machine was on that she couldn't pick up on while he was talking to her for some reason. I don't know if that makes any sense. Because the thing you have to keep in mind is when we see Mike wake up at the end, we don't know when that happens. We don't know if that's linear. That could have happened before the episode
that's
started.
true.
We
And
don't
we don't
know.
know how this clairvoyant guy's powers work either.
No, we have no idea. I think we can be pretty. I think it's pretty safe to say he has powers.
Yes, he does. I agree.
He definitely knows stuff he couldn't know any other way. And I like how they gave us that information. Where Coulson calls her out on it, and he's like, "Well, clearly your guy is a fraud," and then we find out exactly why he's not a fraud.
Right.
So I bought all that. That was cool. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to best moment, worst moment. You said you thought your best moment was Ron Glass and Coulson in the car at the end. That
That
was
was
mine
mine.
too.
That was mine. Both of them tearing it up acting in that scene.
Yeah, it's great. It makes you want Ron Glass here as a recurring character.
I would love that. And I don't know, the directing in that scene I really like too. Like there's something about people talking through like the mirrors in cars that I don't know. That sounds like a weird thing, but I don't know. I think that's an
No, I'm
interesting
with you.
shot composition kind of thing. And I whenever they do that in film, it always adds something to the scene for me. I don't know why.
Do you mind if I backtrack for a second? Because you just brought up something that I meant to say
Sure,
earlier,
sure.
which is directing in this episode is really solid.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with the shot in front of the plane while it's flying of May and Ward talking.
Yeah.
That was neat, and I couldn't believe we cut back to it. Like they did a lot of that exchange from outside the plane. I love it. It looked great.
The plane looked really good in this episode. Like even when the engines turned on and they zoomed away, that's the best the planes looked in the whole
Yeah,
series so far.
there have been some kind of shoddy
Yeah,
shots. Yeah. This was a very great looking episode. You could tell some of their season budget went into this one.
agreed. And the thing I wanted to say too about that car scene is like it's almost like Ron Glass where he's looking at Coulson through the mirrors. It's like it's almost like he's too afraid to face him. You know what I mean? Like he won't turn around and look at him in the car. He can only look at him through the mirrors. He's that like not scared but like humiliated by what he did to him.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Did you have a worst moment?
I didn't really have a worst moment that was like uh, episode breaking or anything. There was one thing that I thought was kind of stupid. Um, that bracelet thing that Fitzsimmons made for the super soldier. That's the dumbest design ever. Like who? If you're in a fight with someone, how could you ever possibly like clip a wristband onto somebody? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. Like Ward tries to do it like 4 times to a super soldier in here, and he's just like, okay, screw it. I'm gonna throw it in this guy's mouth, and it still works. Like what?
Yeah, yeah, I didn't think of that, but now that you mention it, sure.
I don't know. That was
Um,
the only thing I really like. Was like that's dumb.
I did have kind of a worst
Oh yeah.
moment, and mine way, and I don't know if you'll agree with this. I didn't like the exchange with Coulson and Raina about the flowers on the dress
Oh yeah.
because it intrigued me, and then they instantly dropped
Yeah,
it.
they didn't do anything.
He go, and I think part of the problem with it was that it wasn't offhanded enough. He goes, now maybe they'll eventually go someplace with it, and we'll find out what the real reason is that she's constantly wearing flowers on her dress. It was an episode title, for goodness sake. It
Yeah.
seems like it seems like it ought to mean something, and like if it doesn't mean anything, just don't draw attention to it. Maybe let the audience, maybe keep it ambiguous. Let the audience, as we get to know this character, kind of decide for themselves what maybe they think the flowers mean. I love stuff like that. I love it when visually you'll have a pattern, and then you let the audience figure out what it is. Maybe you have an idea,
Right.
but maybe the audience has other ideas, and they all work. But with this, he stops the scene to address it. He goes, she's about to leave. He says, wait, just one more thing. What's with the flowers on the dress? And I mean, this was like it's not this bad, but it was almost like what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning. Like because right because
Yeah.
then she says oh what does she say, like I just
What
something like I
happens to
like
everything
flowers or
else? Yeah, something
yeah, and
is.
then she goes well no I'm talking about Raina.
Oh, okay.
And then she because
She
he
says,
says
"Who
that at the
doesn't like flowers?" That's what she says.
who doesn't like flowers? And then she says, thanks for noticing. And I'm like, is this going to be the last time this is mentioned? Because that is really silly to me. I didn't like that. That bugged me.
Oh, fair enough. I wasn't even thinking about that, but you're right. I kind of expected more with that when I was watching it too.
I feel like we have exhausted what's the big idea pretty well already. Were there any major themes you wanted to just quickly pronounce before we move on?
Not anything other than what I had said before, the disillusionment of Coulson's view of the world, the system, S.H.I.E.L.D, all that kind of stuff was going on in this. And it's consistent with what's been going on with the series so far. I just like to see it maybe tackle some other ideas. I mean, it's fine to have an overarching thematic thing for an entire season, but I don't know. I feel like this has been a theme for almost every episode so far. And that's it.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, if you have an overarching narrative where every episode is the next chapter in a story,
Right.
that totally makes sense.
Yes,
We tell
exactly.
stories about a thing. The problem is, this is at the same time a very episodic show.
Yeah.
This show has many standalone episodes, and they can tackle different parts of that whole. But you're right. Yeah, we're kind of hung up on one thing right now. With this one, I also thought there was a little bit about fear and control and those two things and how they correlate. Doing what you have to in order to feel in control of your own life, even at the expense of other people, on a personal level and also on a professional level. That kind of thing, and you see that and I think that's kind of, if this episode had its own theme, that would be it, because that happens with multiple
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah.
You have Shield on the whole doing that just as a matter of course, right? They must have control. Well, now you got Centipede feeling the same way. Shield has too much control. We feel like they've taken it away from the people. We have to take it back, and now we'll be in
Mm.
control. And then you have Coulson feeling like he's had his personal control taken away from him because he's not even sure who he is anymore, and so he's willing to do whatever he has to, even to other people, in order to get that control back. We see people on the airplane doing some of those same things.
Right. Right.
Against their own, against their own organization, just to get Coulson back. They need control over the situation because they don't trust Shield. But of course, control is a big theme in the show already.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you just said. That's great. I wasn't thinking necessarily about the control aspect of it, but yeah, it's definitely there.
No big new guest stars in this episode. We had the guy. I guess we had the guy that got thrown in the plane. That I mean in the interrogation room. I totally forgot to look him up.
Yeah, he didn't do anything for me anyway. Like he didn't have enough lines to make an impression on me.
Okay, I didn't think to look him
Yeah.
up. Maybe I should have done that. All right, let's go on to a favorite line. Did you have one? Did you have a favorite
A
line?
favorite line. I liked the line where Reno was talking about the clairvoyant, and she said like he knows about what the president dreams at night. Like I don't know, like that aspect of describing his powers, like saying all those sorts of things. I thought was really interesting. It's intriguing me to see like who this guy is going to be. I hope he's a comic book character, and I think
Two.
like as we're going through this, I predicted Baron von Strucker might be him as we go along, and when we get into predictions, there's something in this episode that may make me to believe something that might be really cool. But we'll talk about it when we get there.
There's this moment where Sky has that guy and he's not cooperating, and she's pretending to be Melinda May, and she says, you could do this, or you could spend the next 5 years in the fridge. It's worse than it sounds.
I liked that too. Yeah.
That's hilarious. How bad do I want an episode called The Fridge?
That would be
After
awesome.
the bridge, and after all the other the something rather, and after all the places that Shield has that are those one word title, there must be a place called the Fridge. I bet she didn't make that up. I bet that's a thing.
Even if she did make it up, there's probably a place called the Fridge. I wouldn't doubt it.
So I thought that was absolutely
Yeah,
fantastic.
great.
Okay, so comic book references. Anything new?
Nothing new that I noticed. I mean, we still had Victoria Hand coming back, which was cool. I liked seeing her again. I like that actress. I like the character.
Actress is great.
But nothing new that I noticed.
Okay, let's go on to predictions.
Yes.
We did a few already, but I'm sure there's more things to talk about. Go ahead. What do you have, Dan?
I don't know. I kind of latched onto the place where this base was. The fact that it's a nuclear testing site from the Cold War, from that kind of resonated with me because I'm thinking about supervillains that are associated with radiation and all that kind of thing. I was reminded of this because on Facebook, I have to give credit where credit is due. I didn't think about this idea necessarily on my own at first. The Marvel Cinematic Universe Facebook page, they posted a Wikipedia entry about the leader, and it said his powers
As,
border on
as soon as you said
clairvoyance.
that,
And
as soon as you said that, I thought the leader. Oh my god! I bet that's who it
yeah,
is.
it's a
I
nuclear testing site. I was like, man, that would be really cool if they brought that actor back and it was the leader.
It would be such a big deal if they got that actor back because I thought he was brilliant. And that is that. Yeah, that hits all the criteria,
Yeah.
right? He's a Marvel supervillain. He's one that we know they have access to. He's one we've seen before, and he's one that we've been hoping, to, at least you and
Oh,
I, hoping
yeah.
to God the
I
movies
love the
brought
leader. He's one of my favorite Marvel villains.
figuring they probably wouldn't ever have a place for it. And he's A-list
He was.
enough that
Yes.
you wouldn't feel and also another reason, God, I love that. Another reason that it makes perfect sense that it might be the leader is because they've been wanting to stick mostly to pre-established things that they've already done in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That is one of the only things they could do that would surprise us at all.
Yeah. And the testing site really set it off for me because I was like, that's Bruce Banner lived in one of those in the comics recently, and the leader blew up a town in Peter David's run with a nuke that was like that. So, yeah, I would be very surprised. I would be very pleased if it was him.
Me too. That'd be fantastic. I kept wondering if the mannequins weren't supposed to be some kind of a um, of a of a nod. Like some kind of a hint as to who maybe it was, because they made a big deal out of the mannequins, and I mean, symbolically, you can kind of see how they would relate to Coulson.
That's what I was thinking too. Yes.
As far as his being, we had that reference earlier in the season to Dollhouse. The idea of him looking like a person but being kind of a hollowed out shell, maybe. But what I wonder is, and I wondered this during that, like we have the explanation as to what the place is and the testing site, but what are the mannequins for? What are they doing there? What is that? And I'm not complaining that we're not told. It seems like nobody knows what they're there for. It's really creepy, and I liked how creepy that
Yeah,
was.
the
But
only thing they said was it was the town that the bomb forgot. Like for some reason they didn't test a nuke there for whatever reason. Like they just ran out of like the Cold War ended or something. Who knows?
oh, is that why there's mannequins where they want to try to see what it would do to people? And
Yes, that was very common. They would build entire towns like that during the Cold War to test.
they would have mannequins like
Yeah,
that. So
yeah,
they're like crash test
yeah.
dummies. Okay, well that makes perfect sense. I think there's more to them thematically, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Like I think they're doing something representative with them, but it might not be any bigger than just the connection I made with Coulson.
It's interesting too that we're talking about the Cold War politics and all that stuff in relation to Shield and how the role they must have had in that. Like spy stuff in the Cold War go hand in hand. I wonder if they're going to do anything with that because like they're in a '90s plane too. Cold War technology.
Do you think it's possible that we might get, because we've not done any flashbacks in the show,
Hmm.
but do you think it's possible that we might eventually get like World War II flashbacks about what Shield was doing
I hope
and,
so. That would be
and
awesome.
stuff? I mean, we're getting some of that in the cinematic universe. I mean, I'm sorry, in the movies, of course. But I don't know. I kind of wonder if they might eventually go there.
If they brought back the Howling Commandos from the Captain America movie and had them form Shield, I would be bananas. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be super super cool. Okay, I had a radical notion.
Yes.
This this is baseless. But my radical notion, and I guess I'm saying this based on my lack of information, but when Ron Glass's character, I'm sorry, I just don't know the doctor's name.
I have it written down. It's Dr. Straighton.
Okay, when Ron Glass Stryton says that they didn't want Coulson to be that thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this might somehow or rather have something to do with the precursor to Ultron.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm just saying, is it possible? Because the thing is, we don't know if this is completely organic or not. I'm still not 100% sure that it's not possible that Coulson is, if not a life model decoy, something. I mean, I guess he seems totally organic. I mean, he doesn't seem to have any mechanical parts necessarily. But I wonder if it's not possible that this has something to do. Because the thing is, we don't know how they're going to do Ultron, so we don't know if he's going to be fully mechanical either. You know what I mean?
They said that he's like the actor that they cast is going to give a physical performance, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't CGI him to look robotic to some degree. We don't know.
No, we just don't know. So like I said, that's a radical, baseless notion.
No, but you're right. They could have put an artificial intelligence to some degree in his brain to, get it back to this idealistic version of himself.
I mean, they have access to certain Stark technologies.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot of rumor about Age of Ultron that Ultron's going to be Stark technology gone wrong, and possibly the big thing I've heard is possibly even he's evil Jarvis.
I hope it's a collaboration between Banner and Stark. That would be a home run for me. Like what those two did after they drove off in that car, like that's what they were doing, making Ultron by accident. That would be cool.
That'd be hilarious. But I guess it's possible that they could be simultaneously setting up things for Avengers 2 in this show, kind of incognito.
I wonder.
That'd be neat.
That would be cool.
I think that's probably more wishful thinking than it is a prediction, but could happen.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. I mean, I think we forget sometimes just because this is a TV show and it hasn't been as Marvel Cinematic Universe as we would have liked it to have been, that it could be big ramifications. It could have big ramifications on the Cinematic Universe, but I'm not sure how big they want those ramifications to be, because, like, at the same time, they want the movies and the TV show to be accessible enough that you can sit down and watch them and not have this big giant continuity kind of thing. Like in Avengers 2, I just don't think they'd have to do it in such a way where it's not like, watch the entire season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. before, seeing this movie,
I guess what I'm suggesting is that it would be a precursor.
Right.
Where this happens well before Ultron is even a thing that exists, but like you had to have this before that, yeah. But in the movie you wouldn't have to know about it. I think that could happen.
No, I agree. I agree. I think it all depends on how they do it, obviously.
Let's go ahead and go on finally to trivia questions, shall we? What was your trivia question from last time, and what is the answer, Dan?
My trivia question was my favorite one so far, and it was what is the identity of the hate monger? And the answer is a clone of Adolf Hitler. And that's hilarious.
Yep, that is pretty. A lot of people got that right. A lot of people knew that in the comments.
Awesome.
I had two last time. One was that Ward who was Ward pretending to be in that episode, and it was a member of the Ohio State Gaming Commission. The other was that the big fight in that episode takes place in Area 6. Area 6 was the answer. And now we'll go on to our trivia questions for this week. Dan, what was your trivia question for this week?
For this week, my trivia question is, post-World War II, the current incarnation of Hydra was formed, and I want to know, some of the founding members of that current incarnation of Hydra belong to another criminal organization in the Marvel Universe. Which organization did they belong to?
Okay. Wow, you've had a lot of organization questions.
Yeah, with all the bureaucracies of this the spy organizations, it's ripe for trivia.
My trivia question this time is, how many surgeries does Ron Glass Stryton say Coulson had after his resurrection? He says he's brought in on a certain number. What number of surgery is Rung last brought in on? That's my question.
Cool.
And everybody, thanks always for listening. Dan and I will see you again next week. And until then, I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Dan.
See you later.